Once upon a quiet evening, in a peaceful suburb just outside Chicago, there lived a woman named Emily Carter, a 42-year-old single mother whose strength had always been her family's foundation. Life hadn't exactly been kind to her. After her husband Daniel walked out years ago, she had carried the weight of two people, mother and father, holding the pieces together when the world seemed intent on watching her fall apart. Her son, Michael Carter, was 20 now, bright, kind-hearted, and the very reason Emily woke up every morning with hope, even when that hope felt paper-thin. But behind her calm smile and warm hugs, loneliness had long taken root inside her. It crept into the quiet moments, in the spaces between laughter and in the silence after good nights. One evening, when the sky outside was painted in fading amber and the house had fallen unusually still, Emily sat alone in the living room. The faint hum of the refrigerator was the only sound that filled the emptiness. Bills were scattered across the coffee table, and every number on those sheets felt like a mountain she didn't know how to climb. Her mind began to race. How will I pay the mortgage this month? What about Michael's tuition? The car? The groceries? The silence around her began to feel heavy, almost suffocating. And in that moment, something inside her cracked. She closed her eyes, and in a trembling whisper began to talk to herself, not out of madness, but out of exhaustion. It sounded almost like a prayer, a desperate plea to the universe. She murmured about her regrets, the choices that led her here, and how much she missed having someone to lean on, someone to share the burdens, the laughter, the weight of living. It wasn't meant for anyone to hear. It was her private release, the sound of a woman finally letting her guard down. But she wasn't alone. Unbeknownst to her, Michael had quietly returned home earlier than expected. As he walked down the hallway, he stopped when he heard the sound of his mother's voice. Curious and concerned, he peeked into the living room. What he saw froze him. There she was, the woman he had always believed to be unbreakable, sitting on the couch with tears streaming down her cheeks, shoulders trembling under the pressure of years she had carried in silence. For the first time, he saw her not as the superhero who could fix everything, but as a human being, fragile, tired, and aching. "Mom." Michael's voice came out barely above a whisper, breaking through the air like a crack in glass. Emily gasped softly and quickly wiped her face with her sleeve, trying to compose herself. "Michael, it's nothing," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine," but her voice wavered, and Michael knew better. He took a few steps closer and shook his head gently. "No, Mom, you're not fine. You don't always have to be strong for me." His voice trembled with sincerity. "Let me be strong for you, just this once." Those words hit Emily's heart harder than anything she'd ever heard. For years she had shielded him from every pain, every struggle. She had taught him to study, to work hard, to dream big, but never to worry about her. Yet here he was, standing in front of her as a man, ready to protect the woman who had spent her life protecting him. Emily's lips quivered as tears returned to her eyes, but this time she didn't hide them. Michael sat beside her on the couch, his presence calm, steady. He placed his hand over hers, firm yet gentle, and in that simple gesture, something profound shifted between them. From that night on, their relationship transformed, not in any strange or inappropriate way, but in the most beautiful and human sense possible. Emily began to open up. She let Michael see her struggles, the fatigue behind her smiles, the worries that kept her awake at night. And Michael, in turn, changed too. He became more aware, more responsible. He started noticing the small things, the way she skipped meals when stressed, the sigh she gave before sitting down to pay bills. He began helping without being asked. Their late nights, once spent in silence, now turned into long, heartfelt conversations. Sometimes they talked about life, sometimes about dreams, and sometimes they just sat quietly, letting the unspoken comfort of understanding fill the room. Emily told him stories from her youth, of the girl she used to be before life got serious, before motherhood swallowed her ambitions whole. Michael listened, fascinated, realizing that his mother had lived entire lifetimes before he was even born. And when he confessed his own fears, of failing college, of not living up to her expectations, of feeling lost. Emily held his hand and told him she was already proud of him. For the first time, they saw each other not just as mother and son, but as two souls weathering the same storm. Weeks melted into months, and their bond deepened. Emily stopped pretending to be invincible, and Michael stopped pretending not to notice when she wasn't. Together, they formed something rare, a partnership built on empathy, honesty, and unconditional love. But life, as it often does, decided to test them again. One afternoon, Emily's phone rang. It was her employer. The voice on the other end was polite but distant. The company was downsizing, and her position had been terminated. Just like that, years of dedication reduced to a sentence. She hung up the phone and sat frozen, her breath shallow. Fear flooded her veins. How will I tell Michael? How will we survive this? That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she gathered her courage and called him into the living room, the same place where everything had changed months ago. Michael, she began softly. I lost my job today. Her voice broke halfway through. She braced herself for disappointment, for panic. But instead, Michael smiled. A small, steady smile that reminded her of Daniel in their better days. Then it's my turn to step up, he said confidently. I'll work part-time. We'll figure it out, Mom. Together. For a moment, Emily couldn't speak. The tears came again, but this time they were tears of pride, of gratitude. For so long she had carried the world alone. Now she realized she had raised a man who could carry it with her. The months that followed were far from easy. Money was tight. Some nights were sleepless, but they faced every challenge hand in hand. Michael got a part-time job at a small bookstore near campus, while Emily took on freelance projects, typing reports, editing papers, anything that paid. Eventually, her persistence led to a new job opportunity, one that reignited her sense of purpose. Through every storm, one truth became clear. That night, the night Michael had found her breaking down, wasn't a moment of weakness. It was the beginning of their greatest strength. Emily learned that showing vulnerability doesn't make you weak. It invites love in its truest form. And Michael learned that real love isn't just about protection. It's about partnership, compassion, and understanding. In the end, their story wasn't one of tragedy, but of quiet triumph. Emily once feared being alone. But she realized she never truly was. She had raised not just a son, but a companion. Someone who would stand beside her through every trial life threw their way. That single night when she thought she had lost control turned out to be the night. She gained everything, a deeper bond, an unshakable trust, and the realization that family isn't defined by perfection. It's defined by standing together when everything else falls apart.